Thank you, Michael, and ministers, and ladies and gentlemen. Indeed, I am here not to complain, but to say thank you. All the logistics worked wonderfully, and not just from New York, but in the last 3 days, I've been through Abuja, Nigeria, Lagos, Atlanta, New York City, Frankfurt, and Leipzig, and all flawlessly, without a single delay, without a single inconvenience, without a single apparent lack of safety in any way. And I think it actually is a brilliant accomplishment of the modern transport system that it can move 5 billion air passengers per year and absolutely unimaginable amount of freight around the world. And it is the very backbone of our world economy. I think if there is any quest to place the importance of transport in society, we can put it aside in a way, because transport defines economic life. And without transportation, one may live at subsistence in extreme poverty, and as in some of the villages where I work in Africa, to try to find ways to overcome poverty. But certainly one of the first things that one does in such a context is to try to identify the roads and the transport and communications connections that can allow impoverished communities to escape from poverty. If you go back to the very beginning of modern economics, at least from the Anglo-Saxon point of view, and that is Adam Smith's Wealth of Nations, you'll find transport virtually on every page. And Adam Smith very famously said that the discovery of America and that of the passage to the East Indies by way of the Cape of Good Hope are the two greatest and most important events recorded in the history of mankind. Essentially, transport uniting the world, Smith defined as the pivotal event of modern humanity. It was the creation of the global era. And that great book goes on to explain how favorable transport conditions, particularly sea-based transport, make possible the division of labor, make possible the large-scale trade that in essence defines the rise of productivity and the rise of the modern economy. And I think it is fair to say that every fundamental step of globalization since those two great events in the last decade of the 15th century have been events that have been occasioned by breakthroughs in transport. First, it was ocean-going vessels that defined globalization to begin with in the 15th century. It was ocean steamers and the telegraph that defined the advent of the modern world economy in the 19th century. And it certainly is the great container vessels, the digital era, that defines the advent of the intensive globalization in the second half of the 20th century and that carries us through today. Without those advances in transport, and especially what seems in a way a very basic point, but containerization, the rise of Asia, the fundamental shifts in the world economy now to a rebalancing between East and West, a rapid convergence of the developing countries would be unimaginable. Transport has made it possible. Transport is the essence of what makes the world economy interconnected and productive. So what's the problem if all is working so well? The problem, I think, lies in several dimensions, all of scale. We are now 7 billion people, or at least we will be, according to the United Nations, as of October of this year. The world population continues to grow at about 75 to 80 million people per year. We will be 9 billion on the planet by mid-century, And if we don't do a little bit better in reducing fertility rates, we will top 10 billion by the end of this century. There is, without question, a stunning matter of scaling up our infrastructure, including transport infrastructure, to accommodate a world of 7 billion and then 9 billion and perhaps more in a modern world economy. 2 days ago, as I mentioned, I was in Nigeria. Nigeria, like the rest of sub-Saharan Africa, is grappling with the fundamental development of the infrastructure for transport, for power, for water and sanitation, for urban development. There can be no greater challenge, in fact, than to bring the billions of people in the low-income countries into a modern economy in a sustainable manner. And this is perhaps the greatest transport challenge in the world. I was with President Goodluck Jonathan on several occasions in the last 3 days during that visit to Nigeria, and transport infrastructure was under discussion at every single meeting as a fundamental need, because these are countries that don't have the highway systems, the rail systems all in place. They're building them for the first time. And this, I would say to you, ministers, is a challenge for you in partnership with the developing countries as well, of tremendous significance. Second, of course, is the era of mass, unprecedented urbanization. I know we have very distinguished participants from China here. China's undergoing the most rapid urbanization in world history right now. How China accomplishes that will profoundly affect the quality of life in China throughout this century, and will have profound spillovers to the rest of the world as well. One of China's absolutely most important questions is the role of the automobile in China. Right now, roughly speaking, and the numbers change, so I'll be very rough indeed, there are about 100 million light-duty vehicles in China. China's become the world's largest automobile market as of last year, new sales on the order of about 13 million units per year, overtaking the United States and probably permanently overtaking the United States. If China were to have the automobile density of the US, which is nearly one automobile per person, in fact, China would add about 1 billion vehicles over the next decades. That would more than double the number of automobiles on the road in the world. This, I think, would be unattractive for China's development, and it would raise profound questions for global sustainability as well. But it's a fundamental choice, and it involves lots of crucial questions: decision-making, economic incentives, strategies of urbanization, some of the biggest challenges that have ever been taken on. And I think that this is an open part of the question. Third, and obviously closely related, is that a vast part of our transport system is petroleum-based. And we are in the era of peak oil, at least peak conventional oil. I believe it started, other people say 5 or 10 years from now. I believe the rise in oil prices during the past several years to the roughly $110 a barrel Brent price is a sign of a fundamental shift to scarcity in conventional oil supplies. And this poses a massive question as billions of people, China and India, just the two countries alone, accounting for nearly 40% of the world's population, enter the income levels of mass scaling up of transport for both personal and freight. So managing an era of scarcity is a new challenge, because our whole era of modern economic growth since James Watt improved the steam engine in the second half of the 18th century has been a fossil fuel era. And we know that we're reaching fundamental limits.